Okay, great. So I guess I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is a executive session of the Town Commissioners of Poolesville. I don't have a agenda in front of me. Was there anything in particular we wanted to follow tonight, or?
I listed this as a discussion and workshop on the Whites Ferry closing, and that's our agenda and topic. I would say that we're in a special called meeting, maybe not
Okay,
an
thank you.
executive session. So the parameter for the commissioners coming together tonight is clearly to discuss Whites Ferry and maybe the next steps beyond just a press release, and what we might be able to do as a group to help ensure that Whites Ferry stays open and begin to brainstorm some paths forward. Clearly, the elected officials route is the number one discussion that's happened, but the commission may want to brainstorm other ideas.
All right, well, do we want to go ahead and begin with our Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes.
Ed, do you want to lead us tonight? Did I catch you?
Sorry about that.
Do you mind leading us?
Parenting duties.
I understand.
Stop. Sure.
understand.
You guys ready?
Yes.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
to the flag
of
of
the
the United States of America,
and to the republic
for which it
for which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
indivisible,
under God, indivisible,
With liberty and justice for all.
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
All right. Sorry
Yeah,
about my
so-
glitching.
No problem. Thank you. Right. So obviously, we're meeting in this sort of emergent case because of the sort of shocking text that we got from Commissioner Brown yesterday, saying that he thought there was going to be an announcement today that Whites Ferry would be announcing their closure, which of course did happen. And we were able to put together a press release and send out this morning. But in an effort to not continue to have any discussions about moving forward, not in front of the public, we decided to have this meeting so we could have this discussion in the open. And I guess maybe I'll first kind of turn to Jay and ask, if you'd be able to try to interpret some of the legalities that have already happened, the court ruling, and what's kind of happened on the Loudoun County side already, because I think obviously this is not the town of Poolesville's jurisdiction, but our citizenry is so vastly affected by all of this. So we just want to know, what, if anything, it is that we can do as a body, and what can we try to encourage our residents to do if we want to move forward in that way.
Okay, sure. Based on when the town manager contacted me today, I did some research a little bit on the status. You summarized the status. If you want to look at it most clearly by looking at blurbs, if the citizens want to look at what the Loudoun County statement that was issued gave you some factual pieces that you can put together. Mm-hmm. And then the statement was also issued by one of the property owners, the Rockwell Farms. They issued a statement with some background in that. And everybody knows that this has been litigation that has been pending for almost 11 years. It was filed in 2009 in Loudoun County Circuit Court. It functions the same kind of as our circuit court level. It's the trial court level. And it was between two property owners. And if the takeaway of the case is the fact that there was an agreement, and that agreement was breached, and it needed to be redone. And because it was breached, it was considered a trespass now to continue using what would be the plaintiff's property in Virginia by this corporation. And so that's what the public record shows. You can look at the private records or the private statements and see that apparently there has been negotiations, although that is not part of the legal proceedings. And one of the interesting things is that was stated in one of the press releases is that there's been no injunction, meaning that the court ruled as a matter of law that there was no public or private right to land on the Virginia property based on what was going on. But no one has filed an injunction to stop them or to stay the action. It's just kind of like the court ruled. Normally, there usually is in a normal lawsuit like of this type of nature, there is usually an appeal to an appellate court to see whether everything. Normally, that is accompanied with what you would call an injunction or a restraining order, kind of like a timeout, keep everything the way it is until we figure this out or it gets heard. But as of now, that hasn't happened. And it's not, even though the announcements were made recently, the decision was decided over a month ago. So there was plenty of time. I don't know what the Virginia, I didn't dig deep enough for what the Virginia appeals period is. It would be unreasonable to think it's probably more than 30 days. Some of them are 15 days, but
Jay,
I got
Yeah, you muted.
There we go.
For a second.
So there are steps. So that is what you find yourself. But to boil this down so that we're very clear, this is an action over a property dispute between two private entities. While those private entities certainly have public implications because of the transportation element, it is two private entities. So the town's involvement from a legal perspective is pretty tenuous. There aren't things that the town itself could do. There would be questions of whether you even have standing to do anything. If you did have standing to do things, that ship has probably sailed because you don't have the right to go into an appellate situation. You might have had the right to join in the trial situation, but I think that would be super tenuous. The county, Loudoun County and Montgomery County may have more standing than you do. And then there's the issue of interstate commerce or interstate compact. And could this matter be removed from Virginia and taken to a federal court? That could be something that could happen, but I don't know whether the town would really have standing to do that either. You would really be looking at the state of Maryland or Montgomery County or Loudoun County trying to do that. So from a legal perspective, given a couple hours to research this, you don't really have much of a dog in the fight in a courthouse. You may have the ability to help shape this like governments do, getting public awareness, helping maybe broker a deal. But again, it's still tenuous of your involvement in brokering a deal in a private property matter. So as far as your powers, you certainly have the right to expend funds or take action that you believe is a public purpose. And what is a public purpose is defined by what a majority of your board does. So if you say, yes, I really care about what's happening here and we want to spend money and we want to do that, it wouldn't be beyond your powers to do that. But I'm telling you that the tools in your toolbox are limited at this point in time.
Let me interrupt for 1 second. Seth, when Mr. Brown is available, we should probably let him in. I don't think he probably wants to wait around, so I don't know if he's here.
all right. Carrie, we fine bring him in? We fine, okay.
It's fine with me.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello,
Hello.
Mr. Brown. This is Seth of our town manager, Poolsville.
Yes,
Can you
sir.
hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, you're before the rest of the town commission. They might have a few questions for you, but I'll let the town commission take it from here. But I just want to make sure we had good connection. Thank you.
Mr. Brown, thank you so much. This is Martin Radigan again. We talked earlier. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know you've been busy fielding a lot of questions from various people, and we appreciate you being here for a few minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you all for your support in reading your release today. And I do thank you, and I thank all our neighbors and friends and customers for all the support that White Ferry and the Browns have received today.
Yeah, great. Thank you. When we talked earlier, you told me that you can't give me like a 2 or 3 minute sort of rundown on what happened. Would you mind giving that to everybody else?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll give you a breakdown of the court. As I understand the court decision, number one, we built a wall after my father built a wall after Hurricane Isabel took out. There was a wood wall, retaining wall, on the Virginia landing, and the hurricane took it out, and my father built a concrete wall that's there now, and I guess any of you who've crossed the river know what I'm talking about. Apparently that wall encroached on the bank, which was not in the 1871 right-of-way that, or combination that, where Loudoun County took the road to White's Ferry Landing, or Conrad's Ferry Landing maybe at that time. The judge and Rockland Farm in Virginia sued us. And the judge, after a trial, and this has gone on from, I think, 2009 it was filed. It's gone on for 11 years. The judge ruled that the landing basically been there, I think, since 1792. White's Ferry was act of Maryland legislature or whatever, in 1792. We showed that it probably been there since 1830. And then in 1871, Loudoun County condemned this road to the landing. But we couldn't prove, because in 1871, as I understand it, there was not much description and no plats. So the judge ruled that we couldn't prove that the landing was exactly where it is today. It may have been 100 yards upstream, 100 yards downstream. So we couldn't prove that it was where it was today. So he, in his opinion, said it was Rockland's land. And at the same time, he gave them an injunction, which they have to get an order signed, which they'll get signed probably this week, an injunction keeping us from landing on the Virginia bank. So what happened with the closure, and we've gotten some criticism I see on some of these sites about closing it today during the pandemic. What happened was, as you all know, the river flooded Christmas Eve. So we were closed Christmas Eve. I was there. Our employees worked Christmas Day, spent the day. They worked 48 hours, Christmas Day and Saturday. And because we were getting this injunction forbidding us, or we'd be trespassing, if you will, if we landed in Virginia once this injunction was signed, we were closed. We would had the ferry. If it hadn't have been this problem, we wouldn't have been open till probably today or tomorrow anyway, because we had a lot of problems with debris, and the ferry got pushed around, and we've been fighting it for, all weekend, and we've still got some problems. Anyway, since we were closed, we were going to get this injunction against us within the next 5 to 10 days. We were closed. I made a decision Saturday to close it permanently at this point, because we couldn't go to Virginia. I wasn't going to open for 3 or 4 days and then turn around and close it again. So I decided Saturday to close it permanently, if you will. Rockland put out statements. They've tried to get in touch with us. They tried to deal with us. They tried to come up with an interim statement. We've never heard from Rockland. Their lawyer's only dealing with our lawyer, and I've never heard from anybody, never talked to anybody from Rockland. And by the way, I just got involved in this in a year and a half ago when my father, right before my father died, so I don't have all the history on it at this point. Rockland said they wanted to give us an interim agreement. Their interim agreement was a revocable license, revocable for any reason at any time. The interim agreement called for a payment to them of $600 a day. The agreement, with a lot of other stipulations that I wouldn't have signed, and stipulations and stuff, called for us to pay them to use a Virginia landing $18,000 a month. We can't afford to pay them that. Right now, White's Ferry, with the pandemic, our receipts are probably down over 30% from a year ago. And financially, we can't do it. We don't want to close the ferry. It's devastating our family. And my father's legacy. But financially, we can't run the ferry at a loss. I don't want to lay off the employees, but, we're trying to work a deal. Loudoun County won't help us. We asked Loudoun County, our attorneys, 2 or 3 years ago, Leo Rogers, the county attorney for Loudoun County, they asked them to get involved. It was their condemnation in 1871 that took the landing. We always assumed, it was a public road, public landing, and the judge ruled different, and the county wouldn't get involved, wouldn't help, or it was their condemnation, and they wouldn't get involved, and that's where we're at today.
Thank you for that. I think everybody should feel free to jump in with a few questions. I'm curious, Mr. Would you consider other legal options like appealing?
We once the order is signed, we have 30 days to appeal. Because this has just been back and forth negotiations up until last week. Everything's under consideration. For all I know, they may appeal. They wanted, I don't know if anybody's read the judge's opinion, but they wanted millions of dollars for damages and trespassing and this and that and the other thing, and the judge threw them out. So they may appeal.
Sure.
We got to get through this week and get the order. Once the order's signed, then we have to sit down and see if it's worth it. We've spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees.
Yes, understood.
On this, my father fought them, and do I want to spend another $500,000 on an appeal? I don't know.
Sure, understandable.
Mr. Brown, hi, this is Carrie Cook. Thanks again for being with us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for your support today.
Yes, thank you so much. This, as you well know, affects all of us. This really affects our whole region.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, do you see any hope for negotiation? Are you interested in reaching out to county or state officials to get help with this?
It's the Virginia. It's the Loudoun County, which we're,
Right.
we've gone to we've gone to the Loudoun County. We talk. Our attorneys in Virginia talked to what's his name, Tim Kemp Street, I believe.
Okay.
You know, and said we need help. The ferry's going to close.
Right.
And they, you know, they don't. They want a bridge.
Right.
They're using it as an excuse to build a bridge.
Hey Herb, it's Jim Brown. Your dad used to call me cousin Jim, but
Yeah.
it's usually when he wanted something. So we were relatives then. It's good to hear your voice, and first of all, I want to say I really appreciate all you guys have done for Poolesville Up County region. Thanks for keeping the ferry running all this time. You know, your dad was absolutely one of my favorite people. So was your mom, and you guys too. And I know it's a labor of love. So we appreciate the fight that you fought so far. And, you know, it just means so much to not just the Up County, but the entire region in terms of not just commuting, but tourism. And the heart and soul of the Up County is White's Ferry. And we appreciate everything you've done to try and keep it alive over these last few years.
We during March, April and May, when the pandemic first hit and everything closed, we weren't making labor and fuel.
Right.
And my father, as I guess Randy Davis many times reported, he ran it for the pleasure and the convenience of the public.
Yes.
He was serious about that.
Yeah.
But
no, we know. We
and
loved your dad. We loved the dedication to the ferry and to the Up County.
Yeah. The other thing is, and I want to point out that we're encroaching supposedly on about 5,000 acres. Before the trial, 5,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Before the trial, my father offered them $300,000 for it. This is farmland in a floodplain. And they wouldn't take it. Now we've spent that money and more in the past 2 years trying it. I did make them an offer. I offered them for a permanent easement, $100,000. That's $20 a square foot for floodplain. And they basically said that was insulting. $900,000 an acre for farmland. So we can't deal with them. They won't deal with us.
Herb, are you open to us brokering as best we can a political solution to this? Because I know that the Loudoun County side has been less than responsive. And we are prepared to marshal the resource. You know, town of Poolesville isn't necessarily, you know, we have a dog in the hunt, but we're not the muscle. The county and the state are. And are you prepared to let us and are you okay with us enlisting their help? Basically, yeah. we're gonna end up trying to kick the door wide open to figure out solutions to solve this thing. And if we can, is your family still prepared to run it, assuming that we can get the terms and the right conditions? Are you prepared to move forward?
We don't want it closed, but here's another problem we have. Mm-hmm. If it isn't done, and we have to lay off our people, which we will, then we have to have licensed captains on the boat. Our people will be gone. And then we got to deal with the Coast Guard, getting people trained, getting them captain licenses, and I don't know how long. We have a major problem dealing with the Coast Guard. Once it's closed and our employees are gone. So that's a problem. To answer your other question, the Browns don't want to close it, but we're not going to pay those kind of fees to keep it open. The ground's worth money. I don't know. I've had offers from people to buy it. Will we sell it? We may. I don't know. That I can't answer at this point. It's wearing on us. It's wearing on us. I'm, 70-some years old, and do I want to battle everything for the next 20 years? I don't know. My father, it was his passion. You know that.
Yes. Yeah, he was a fighter. 65 years ago, he used to drop us at St. Peter's to go to Sunday school and then go to the river. Yeah.
So,
yep. Loved your dad.
Yeah. So, we want to keep it open, whether we run it or somebody else does. We want it open. And any help we can get to keep it open. And it doesn't matter whether the Browns run it or the Jones run it, if you will.
Well, I can tell you, I don't think it'll be the town of Poolsville running it, but we're definitely going to go to bat for you in the best, most powerful, strongest way. It's as you know, it was at the convenience and the pleasure of the public. But it is truly the heart and soul of the Up County, as well as a major commuter route and a major contributor to our way of life up here. So we're prepared to dig in,
and we're prepared to work with you, work with Maryland. We don't want it closed.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want it closed.
Mr. Brown.
It's my father's legacy.
Yep.
Whether I run it or you do, we don't want it closed.
Right on.
Did you have something?
Hi, Mr. Brown. This is Jeff Eck.
Yes.
And I don't have a question for you, but I do want to say you've been very kind to come on the telephone call and give us all the background information like you have. That's greatly appreciated. It has filled in many gaps, at least for me, in many things that I've read, and some of them I'm not sure if they're 100% accurate. Everything that you say, I completely believe. And the White's Ferry has meant a lot to myself and my family. I worked over on the Virginia side for many years, took the ferry twice a day reliably. Always enjoyed the few minutes that it takes to cross as a little bit of a respite. And I know your family. A number of my friends knew your dad and know yourself and some of your brothers related to the fire department and so on. And so I'm just thanking you for the things that you have done with the ferry. And from my personal my personal wish is that your family continues with it. But I certainly understand, at some point you want to retire and kind of hand it off to the younger folks. So anyway, just a long way to say thank you for all of your service to the community.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
And Mr. Brown, you have our contact information. If there's something that you can think of that we can do to help, I hope you won't hesitate to reach out.
Okay, yeah, I will, and I appreciate all that you all are doing, and like the gentleman said, a lot of the statements are very inaccurate, and I've told some of the reporters, God knows I've talked to, I don't know, every TV station, every newspaper today, and I've told them just all read the judge's opinion, and it explain it. Mm-hmm. And why he made his decision, whether it was right or wrong. He used case law, and we didn't prove that it was in the same 80 or whatever 50 feet that it is today. We couldn't, because of no good descriptions or plats, etc., prove that that's where it was in 1871. We did prove it, but not to his satisfaction, I guess.
Well, again, I wonder if a different judge would have a different opinion, but that's
That's
something for,
yeah,
yeah.
that's neither here nor there at this point. And I've tried not to criticize, and I haven't criticized the judge. Did I like his decision? No, but I tried not to say anything about it.
Sure.
Well, Herb, if you could, if there's any way that the family can see fit to keep the employees hired and to not let that let us slip into the Coast Guard purgatory of trying to reset the clock. Anything that you can do in that way, we'd appreciate it. We've only had one day to digest this, and I know the town's prepared to really put some leadership out there with all of our political might that we can, and try to influence the decision making and the ability to move forward.
Yes.
Yeah, we told the employees that they're staying on at least for another month, to give this thing time to settle. Maybe something can work out, and if something looks like it's going to work out, we don't want to get rid of them because it's still costing us a lot just to keep them with no income. But we wanted, we told them that, they're there a minimum of another month.
We're going to work hard to help. We're going to work hard to help you get a solution. And this has already gone. There's people at the highest levels in Maryland that are looking at this right now. And we know that we've got to take some positive steps, and they've got to be taken quickly in order to try and get this thing back on track, come up with something hopefully short term that puts the ferry back in business while we work towards some long-term solutions for both you and your family, as well as the operation of the ferry itself.
We've reached out, and our attorneys have reached out who know the people in Loudoun County, and some of the people that we know have reached out. I know we've reached out to the Virginia Attorney General, is aware of it. And so, we're doing what we can, and but we can't work with, we just can't seem to work with Rockland. They're just unreasonable.
Yeah.
And we can't, that's why at this point, part of the reason I made the decision Saturday, it just, they were going to shut us down.
Well, with any luck, political pressure along with public advocacy can help. You've shouldered this burden alone for a long time, or kind of alone, and we're hopeful that we can put some muscle behind what you've been up to in order to. It's obviously a big deal for this region, and we know that you make the decision with the just absolute highest level of consideration. But we represent the people, and the people need this ferry to be operational for all the reasons that we know are out there. So we're going to really be fighting hard.
And I think what you're seeing now is a tsunami of of people that are just outraged and have all of a sudden, it's been off their radar, and they're becoming interested in it. And like Jim said, I think the political pressure is going to be there, and we're certainly going to hold up our end of that.
And I think the important thing is the pressure, the Facebook, and I'm not on Facebook, and that's why I'm not on Zoom tonight. I'm not on any of these things. I'm too old to figure them out. But anyway, but my son had the Facebook, and Loudoun County's taking a lot of heat.
They are. Yep. More to come.
More to come.
Yeah. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry. Thank you so much, and thank you. I don't know how to thank you enough for your help. But we'll do whatever we can to, for the pleasure and the convenience of the public, right?
Mm-hmm. Just thank you for keeping your employees lined up so that we have time to get this thing sorted out.
Yes.
Yeah, we can't. Once they're gone, then the trouble isn't, that It's a whole nother story when you're dealing with the Coast Guard.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, thank you
Thanks
very
so
much for taking the
much.
time to be here with us. We really appreciate your time, and we appreciate everything you've done in the past for the community and for history and the whole bit. So thank you.
Thank you all. And
Thank you, Mr. Brown. This is Ed Reed, new commissioner. And also just want to thank you and just to let you know that you have a united commissioner group that's going to stand and fight with you to see what we can do to help influence getting things turned around. So thank you for all that your family has done. And we
If
look
you
forward
all
to
need
standing with you.
anything or any information, give me a call and we'll do what we can, to help you also. Thank you all very much for your
Thank you.
help.
Stay safe
you,
out
Mr.
there.
Brown.
Thank you,
See you,
sir.
Herb.
Take care.
Good night.
night.
Happy New Year.
Happy
New
New Year.
Year.
Oh, yeah.
Same to you.
Bye.
Great guy.
Yes.
Great family.
Yeah, sounds like it. Something of note too, and this is all over all the news. Like I said to Mr. Brown, I think there's going to be like a lot of pressure and a lot of momentum here. But I know there's other groups working on this. I know Heritage Montgomery has been involved. I would be surprised if Montgomery Countryside Alliance doesn't get involved. I don't know about the groups. There's a group in Loudoun County. I'm not sure if they're going to get involved. I forget the name of it, but there's definitely people are getting mobilized.
I did see the post from Mark Ehrlich, the county executive,
Mm-hmm.
and he has asked the Montgomery County Department of Transportation and also the Montgomery County attorney to be in contact with their counterparts on the Virginia side.
Good.
Towards some type of a resolution that was posted on the Facebook.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I know that all of our state and county reps are in communication now. I talked with Andrew Friedson, Delegate Chi, and Evan Glass called me today too, and I know that they're all talking and wanting to help however they can. I mean, I think everyone's just kind of like us today, sort of trying to catch up to what can we do.
So one of the things that it occurred to me when I was listening to Mr. Brown speak is, we were talking about Van Eperen and what role they might play, and it was still probably premature to start, having them get on things. And one thing that they could perhaps help with is, I don't know if the Brown side of the equation is getting the story out. Like, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and like it seems like a clear, concise statement about their side of the story, which I'm assuming is the accurate side of the story, is out there. Like there are those that believe that, well, the people in Virginia tried to work with them and they just wouldn't work with them, so they had to do this. But that doesn't appear to be true. So I don't know if there's a place for Van Eperen to sort of put out, help us basically promote the truth of the true story, and try to win over public opinion. I think public opinion is pretty much on our side now to begin with, but
it feels to me like the public opinion is on the side of the White's Ferry folks, so the Brown family. At least that's kind of what I've taken by many. I don't know how many posts that I've read during today on Facebook and on various emails and all that, but it does feel like the public opinion is on the side of the Brown family and White's Ferry.
Well, but those are a lot of Poolsville centric feeds too.
True. Yes.
So, I think you guys, without question that we have to have Andrew and Senator Feldman, and Montgomery County DOT with Mark Elrich lead this charge to. They have to put upward and over pressure on top of their Virginia counterparts to have the Virginia counterparts put pressure on Rockland's to come up with a solution here. That's the only way this is going to fly. I think I think up until this point, it's been, it's like a fly on the wall to the Virginia side, but now they have to know that our political pressure from Maryland, how important this route is, agritourism, great, regular tourism, all that. It is a major commuter situation,
It's
period.
huge.
And we have to have this. I think we need to have our guys, Andrew, Brian, potentially even to the governor's office, but definitely Mark Elrich and Montgomery County DOT, put this pressure on to create the solution. Otherwise, that it probably should stay for the short term in these private hands, right? So we have two private landowners that need to have pressure put on them to come up with a solution.
Yeah.
Longer term, I think you heard it from Herb that, I'm not sure they want to stay in the game forever running the ferry. So we're going to have some, get some time to get a bigger solution in place longer term. But for the time being, this political pressure has to go on top of Loudoun County to force Rockland to get it together.
And it has to happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
I think that's back to the original question that I think we were starting to pose to Jay, but maybe it's to all of us, is how do we put that pressure? I mean, how do we influence the whole community to put that pressure? Because it's really got to come from the whole region.
Well,
I think you have right now, if we look at just what, say, Andrew, I think you have Andrew's commitment is there. You watch his actions. And so then I think that it's working not to put pressure on Andrew and Senator Feldman, but it's working with them and looking at what else would they need from the community. And I think at the same time, I read through a lot of the comments in the Loudoun County side, and I can see there's the same high level of frustration and concern that a lot of us have. And so I think it's a matter of looking at how does everyone work together, and which is different than saying put pressure on the councilman and say, hey, we need you to do something, but instead really talking with the councilman. And I'll give you guys credit, like Jim and Carrie, for the folks that you've already spoken to who are reaching out, and those folks say, how can they help those elected officials? And say, hey, let's look at how do we have a way you can help us. Let's have a coordinated effort with your counterparts in Virginia to do what Jim just said, which is to look at how do you put that pressure on the two parties involved, and to come up with a viable solution in the short term while you explore what your long-term options are. Right?
Yeah,
I think that's the way to go.
At this point, it sounds like it's sort of incumbent on us to keep the pressure on our reps, to have them keep the pressure on their counterparts. Would a joint letter from all of us help? Would it help if we each individually nicely bugged them and reminded them? Jim, you had more experience with this. What's the best way forward for us?
I think a letter from the commissioners representing the entire Poolesville region to the three of them to start. I mean, I'm not trying to limit the influence of our delegates, but Feldman Brian is the leader of our delegation, so he's the one that gets that hard letter, as does Andrew, as does Mark Elrich, and potentially Tom Hucker too, being the president of the council. So, probably it starts with a conversation and then go from there. I mean, I think you guys, we could muster, if you're pardon the expression, because we have muster too, from Fair Access, but we could muster, as you said, Martin, kind of a tsunami of public opinion about this. I guess the point is probably going to be wield that when we need it, but keep that workability with our guys and give them the chance to reach over and make this thing work without embarrassing people. Give them the chance to have a solution.
Jim, remind me of the name of that program, that computer program you guys lease or whatever that does the auto emails and all.
It's Muster.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
So that's
and we've got a couple thousand plus people on it that, really at the push of a button, they can generate emails, either pre-formatted emails or create their own, et cetera, and direct them to people, whoever's addresses we give them to. So it is out there. It is available. I do think though that our politicians know how important this is.
Yeah, I would think they do.
Point two.
Hey Jay, let me just ask you, just sort of out of left field. What are the chances? Could Loudoun County come in, or could Virginia come in and do some kind of an eminent domain play and take that small parcel of land because it's in the best interest of the public and pay the landowner fair price?
I mean, they could, if their laws are similar to Maryland, I got to figure they're kind of similar. They could come in and take over. They tried to do that once. I mean, that's what the whole issue is that they did that to take the landing. They just can't find out where the landing is. So
Gotcha.
they've already had the experience of doing it. In Maryland, there's a quick take, and then you figure out what the valuation is later. And that's what everybody's going to be scared about is, the valuation can be calculated lots of different ways. And a forever purchase of an ongoing asset like that, generates income all the time. The valuation goes up, up, up. So,
Yeah.
Jay, can you explain that a little bit more, what you just said about that they've already done that once? They've already come in and
well, I mean, I read the opinion really quick because,
Mhm.
Time was short today. But at
Sure.
some point in the late 1800s, I believe
Right.
it was, Loudoun County condemned the road to get to White's Ferry on the Virginia side and a piece of area that would be where the ferry landed and started from. And no one can definitively tell where that area is.
I see.
And that's what you heard Mr. Brown saying, is that they have the burden to prove we're operating in the same area, but they can't prove it because of the records. And that is not, it makes it sound like somebody messed up or everything like that. When we tried to find the descriptions to the roads that we were getting from Montgomery County, we
Right.
couldn't find descriptions.
Right,
It
right.
was, back to like the Indian references of when the land was done through like a king's grant. So
Huh.
that's the thing.
Wow.
So when they did it, they've already done that once and they weren't able to
I see.
Sure.
kind of
Thank you.
capitalize. Right.
I wanted to ask Jim Brown if, Jim, do you think that it's appropriate or inappropriate to contact Governor Hogan for his support towards Mark Elrich?
We could, but it's really so when you get at state level, you start talking about working back through Feldman on that versus Elrich, even though obviously they all know each other.
Yeah.
But the state direction goes from our delegates through our senator through the governor, and that normally is how those guys get approached. I mean, we could certainly put it in front of the governor's hands, but I can definitely see Senator Feldman, giving the leadership and the information to the governor's office that's needed.
Okay.
And the
Yeah.
governor,
I feel like Feldman would, if Feldman knew that he needed to go to the governor's office, he would. He's a pretty strong advocate, I think. And this isn't something that just affects Poolsville. This affects Down County to some extent too.
Mm-hmm.
definitely. And he's a Darnestown guy. And when I reached out to him over the weekend to tell him this thing was brewing, he he immediately came back on text with an all caps, ugh, okay, let's see what we can do.
Yeah, good. So would you think our next step is to Jim to do that letter, to write that letter from all of us that, maybe have a little, I don't know, I don't want to say has teeth, but we're firm, like this is of the utmost importance. I mean, they probably already know that, but.
Yeah, I think it does. I think it's both from a PR perspective as well as formalizing that the town is united and the town speaking for the region is united behind they putting all the effort and might of their offices into this. As I said, it's kind of like an overarching, almost like, picture ourselves going over the river and landing in Loudoun County and telling them that we absolutely have to have them be working towards a solution as well.
Yeah.
Right.
And that we're open to helping on it. And I'm not sure beyond somebody mediating between the two parties for the short term, but political might can provide that mediation.
Sure. And do you think that I like the way that we did the letter yesterday, like the statement that we released in the end, I liked it. I think one person should craft it and then, minimal input if possible. And we should get it out. So who should take the lead on that? Carrie, do you want to do that or do you want to have someone else?
Yeah, I can start it.
Okay.
It can look a lot like your press release.
Yeah.
Sure, no problem.
What about
Yeah.
the Martin had a good suggestion also about somehow publicizing the correct story from the Brown family. Whereas I agree, I think most of the information, whether it's accurate or not, I can't judge that, but most of the information seems to be coming from the Virginia side. And it only seems fair that, although I don't want the Brown family to get into a situation where it's he said, they said, and that doesn't really help anybody. But it does seem like maybe the Brown family needs or perhaps deserves some, positive press and maybe some accuracy from their point of view.
Well, certainly I haven't seen everything, but from what I have seen, White's Ferry put out a very brief statement, very, very much to the point. And then the people at Rockland Farm, Rockland Historical, whatever it is, put out like a lengthy statement, telling their side of the story, which I suspect probably leaves some key things out, as people do. But Jeff, like you said, I think that the Brown side of the White's Ferry side of the story, should be told too. And then, as it is, like, I feel like the public sentiment is like 80% in White's Ferry's favor, but I think you could change that to 99% with more open information about it from this end of it.
Yeah,
I think
I'm not
it's-
sure how we would go about that without. I mean, obviously, we would need input from from Mr. Brown again, and without trying to step on his toes or overreach, speaking on their behalf. But I'm not quite sure what next step to take, but it does seem like we need to help them get their side of the story out.
It seemed to me anything that was put out would have to have his blessing or their blessing.
Yes.
And this is the kind of thing PR firms do. I mean, this is like right up their alley, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, like, getting
Well,
this put out.
The only thing that I think we could do, you guys, I like it from an angle, even in my business, we always try to start with a thank you. And I think that we could put out a thank you for Herb for appearing tonight on the Zoom, and then making a pledge to keep his employees, to keep the organization together while we work towards some sort of solution. I think, to me, that was the biggest part of all this. If this truly was dead, then you're talking about that we're beating our heads up against the wall starting today.
Right.
And to me, it doesn't sound like it's dead at all. If he's going to maintain his employee base, then he's given us time to try to work out, put all the pieces together to work out a solution.
Well, Jim, should that look like a similar statement that we put out this morning? A similar statement like the town of Poolsville wishes to thank him, wishes to
Yes.
recognize that he's keeping his employees.
Yeah.
Gary? I'm particularly good at giving work to other people.
Yeah,
Carrie?
I see that, Martin.
I agree
Hey.
with Martin. I think that's a good idea, and I agree with Jim. So they don't have to bear it themselves.
I'm also wondering what does everyone think should be sort of the overall message that we're sending to residents who are already asking, what can we do to help with this effort?
Good question.
We're already getting emails and
Carrie, I think
calls.
part of that, to answer that question, I think part of it is what we're doing right now is just being very transparent and showing, as soon as we're learning things, and these are the things that we've done, this is what we're doing. And then there are other pieces that have to come into play. And that's like getting the feedback from Senator Feldman and, working with Andrew. So there's some moving parts that all have to move together. But I think we maintain a high level of transparency. And as we get information, we share and strategize. But I think it's important not to jump so far ahead without, this is day one, but making sure that we don't jump so far ahead that we run past what Senator Feldman and what Andrew would be doing.
You guys too, and that's a good point. We have to remember too, and at one point or another, the information has to get out that we are not the governing body of this. We're not the political body of this. We're the advocates for the Up County and for our residents. So we're I think it would be even questionable about expending, like if we were going to hire Jay to go in there, or have Jay hire somebody that goes in there and tries to get involved from a legal standpoint. I think that's even questionable. I think we have to make sure people know, our job are advocates. Our job are working with our politicians and potentially trying to bring everybody together for a solution. So no matter what we do, guys, let's make sure that we don't get that out. I think there's some confusion that somehow Poolsville has has some sort of legal standing in this, and we really don't.
Yeah, good point. So the takeaway for now is that we come up with a sort of a statement or press release about, you know, thanking the Brown family for everything they're doing, and that we stand with them and recognizing all the great things they've done for history and for the up county. And then we write a letter from the board to Mark Elrich, Brian Feldman, and Andrew Friedson, and Tom
Tucker, yeah.
Tucker. We start there. Does that sound right?
Yes, and
Yep.
I just wanted to add, because Jim Brown said something very important, or he reiterated something very important that Mr. Brown said, and that is that they're keeping their employees on for another
Yep.
month. And that clearly shows the Browns' intention of trying to work something out.
Yes.
If they knew it was a dead deal, then they wouldn't be able to keep their employees on for, a whole month, which is,
Now, some of that might be
is
optimism.
very generous.
Some of that might be optimism for a deal, and some of that might be, I have no idea. I'm just speculating, but some of that might be that they're good people and they're just trying to pay, give them a month's salary too. I mean, it's
Yeah,
hard-
but I
hard
do
to
think
know.
that's an important element to include in the letter, showing the Browns family good faith.
Yes, I agree.
Mhm.
I agree.
And then Carrie, do you want to keep the reach out tomorrow or even tonight to Feldman and Senator Feldman and to Andrew about updates, or do you want me to do it? And basically my only update would just be that we had a great conversation with a member of the Brown family. They pledged to keep their employees around for the next month. They definitely want to work on a solution, and basically proposed to them that we need them to headman whatever communications take place that can help bring these parties together.
Jim, if you don't mind, why don't you reach out to Brian and I'll reach out to Andrew. I've been in contact with him a lot today.
Yeah,
You guys think it's appropriate to copy us on that? I'm kind of curious at the correspondence.
that's fine. I mean, it's
Sure. Sure.
I find text gets him the fastest.
Right.
Okay. So do what you got to do.
But I can do that and then come back to everybody and let me know where at least where Brian is.
Yeah, I
And
trust you.
Brian may well be deferring to the county on this for the time being.
Yeah.
And it really does kind of start with the county, but he can provide muscle where needed too. So, and we're gonna explore with him where he can apply that muscle and how he's going to help.
Well, it sounds like we got 3 weeks or less to do it. So
Yeah, these guys got to get it together. And you guys, just to reiterate, you saw all the moving parts. $100,000 was what that judge ruled. Roughly $102,000 what the judge ruled that they have to pay. We don't have clarity whether any of that was paid or not. Likely none. We also saw some controversy there between Herb and saying that his people had never heard from him from their side. I mean, this could be lawyers talking to lawyers and it's not getting filtered down. Sorry, Jay. I know you always keep your people informed. And that it's that a miscommunication and lack of communication has been part of the accusatory parts of all this too.
yeah.
So that leads my hope that we can somehow have a negotiation that can bring the parties together and have it be no fault, but we get an answer in a direction.
Very good. Let's get those letters crafted, and Carrie, if you want any help with that, I'm happy to do it. I can probably convince Abby to proof them for us.
Be great.
I'll get a hold of Brian tonight and update him, and then I'll get something back in writing from him that I can share with everybody else.
Great. Thank you for that, Jim.
Awesome.
And Carrie, thanks for getting in touch with Andrew, and reach out to me, somewhere else, Carrie, if you need help with anything. And, if your burden's too high, I can do one of the letters if you need me to.
Okay. Sounds good.
Jay, do you have
I
any
wanna
other
volunteer for
suggestions on this thing?
No, I
Jay.
think that you're really going to need to work through your senator. I mean, he's your conduit to SHA. They'll jump for him. And, this might be one where you're sounding the alarm, but you're not going to take the lead.
Right.
And sometimes that might be a better thing as you let the people that can
Oh, for sure.
effectively lead.
Yep.
Yeah, no question.
Good.
And thank you, Jay. And Carrie, if you need help looking over anything, just let me know. I'm happy to proofread, look over, and brainstorm with you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll send it out to all of you for notes, of
Yes.
course.
I want to offer to help in any way I can as well, crafting a letter, reviewing it, whatever.
Okay, great.
Hey, Jeff, that did remind me. Is there any like reciprocity between Virginia and Maryland on fire services and services that potentially can come over and would potentially use the ferry? I didn't know if there was a safety aspect of this that we're missing.
Not that I know of, Jim, and I probably wouldn't be the authority on it, but I do know whenever there's a water rescue to come, someone falls out of their canoe or a kayak or whatever it might be. Very often, both Virginia and Maryland emergency services respond. And even if the patient, for example, is on the Virginia side, very often the patient will be transferred over to the Maryland side to be transported to the hospital if necessary. Because, I think the rule is that Maryland owns the river, so Maryland is responsible for emergency rescues. But like I say, I'm not the top authority on that. I could ask others and find out a better answer.
Yeah, I just want to see if we're missing something from a well-rounded standpoint on this approach, not just commuter, not just tourism,
Right.
not just convenience, but also
I know in the past, I haven't done it myself, but I know in the past that we have transported across the ferry to the hospital in Virginia. I think it's Nova. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah,
But,
Nova Leesburg. Yeah.
We definitely, absolutely have done that. It's been quite some time, but that has happened. Yes.
Yeah, and just to clarify, normally the backup for Poolesville Fire and Rescue, Upper Montgomery County, comes from like Carroll Manor and places like that.
Yeah, Frederick
where
County.
they're not crossing the river.
No, not from Virginia, but from Frederick County. Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Frederick County, Quincy Orchard. Germantown.
Got it. Okay. Just want to make sure we, as I said, as many irons as we need to put in the fire to kind of make sure this is, everybody knows how important this is.
Agreed.
Okay.
Good. Well, this was productive, I think.
Yeah, thanks everybody for throwing this together at the last minute. I was glad everybody was able to attend too.
Yeah, no, this is important.
Thanks for joining us too, Jay.
And I think it's
Happy
just
to be
important to reiterate what was already been said, which is helping clarify our role in this whole piece, because I think a lot of people will be looking for us to come up with certain things that are not within our jurisdiction. And I think that it's important for folks to know that we're working together in the role of strong advocates with the people who are in a position to create more movement. But our role is to be very strong advocates.
Right. And thanks also
Yeah.
to Seth for fielding all of the press calls today too.
Yeah.
I think
Nice
his phone
job,
was
Seth.
ringing off the hook today. So thanks for dealing with that.
Thank you.
Very
All
good.
right.
All right.
All right, you guys. Thanks everybody. Someone
need a
want to
motion?
make a motion?
I motion that we conclude this meeting.
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor?
All right.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
We're
Thanks,
adjourned.
guys.
Thanks, everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.